Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Have you ever noticed how one negative thought can spiral into a chain of doubts, fears, and self-criticism? It's like your mind is on autopilot, replaying the same worries over and over again. What if I told you that these thought loops are not permanent, and that you can reprogram your brain to stop them for good? In this video, we're going to uncover the hidden mechanics of negative thinking, why your brain gets stuck in these cycles, and most importantly, how you can break free. You'll learn science-backed strategies, step-by-step methods, and practical tools you can start using today to reset your mindset. By the end, you won't just understand your thoughts. You'll know how to rewire them and design a life that's truly yours. Ready to take control of your mind? Let's get started. Have you ever wondered why negative thoughts seem louder than positive ones? The truth is, our brains are wired for survival, not happiness. Thousands of years ago, paying attention to danger kept us alive. If our ancestors ignored a rustling in the bushes, they risked becoming dinner for a predator. Because of this, the human brain developed what scientists call a negativity bias. Simply put, bad experiences, critical voices, and fearful thoughts stick like glue, while positive ones often slip away too quickly. Think about it. If 10 people compliment you and one person criticizes you, which one do you remember? Most of us hold on to the negative comment, replaying it over and over again in our heads. That's negativity bias at work. It's not because you're weak or broken. It's simply your brain doing what it has been programmed to do for survival. But while this was useful thousands of years ago, in today's world, it often holds us back from growth, confidence, and peace of mind. Another reason we get trapped in negative thoughts is habit. Every time you think a certain way, you're literally carving a groove in your brain. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. Imagine riding a bike down the same dirt path again and again. Over time, the path gets deeper, making it harder to ride anywhere else. The same thing happens with your thoughts. The more you rehearse a worry, a fear, or a self-critical belief, the more your brain defaults to that path without even asking for permission. But it doesn't stop there. Negative thinking also ties into emotions and identity. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not good enough," eventually it doesn't just feel like a thought. It feels like who you are. And once it feels like your identity, breaking free becomes even harder. This is why so many people feel stuck, even when they desperately want to think more positively. There's also the issue of confirmation bias, the brain's habit of searching for evidence to support what it already believes. If your mind is saying, "I always fail," your brain will subconsciously look for examples of times you messed up, while ignoring your wins. Over time, this creates a distorted view of yourself and your reality. You're not seeing the truth. You're seeing the world filtered through your negative programming. And this filter can be so strong that it convinces you that you're powerless, when in fact, you're not. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show that when you're caught in negative thought loops, your brain activates the same stress response as if you were in real danger. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your body releases cortisol. In other words, your mind convinces your body to live in a constant state of fight or flight, even when you're sitting in a safe environment. That's why negative thinking feels so draining. It's not just in your head, it's in your entire nervous system, shaping how you breathe, how you sleep, and even how your body heals. The good news? If your brain can be programmed into negative cycles, It can also be reprogrammed into positive ones. Just like deep ruts in a dirt path can eventually be smoothed out and replaced by new ones, your thought patterns can be reshaped. The key is first understanding why these cycles happen, and that's exactly what we're breaking down in this video. By the end of this journey, you'll see that your thoughts aren't fixed, your brain isn't stuck, and your identity isn't set in stone. Negative thinking is simply a habit formed by evolution, repetition, and reinforcement. And habits can always be broken. And once you know how to rewire those habits, you won't just escape negativity. You'll create an entirely new mental blueprint for success and freedom. If negative thoughts were just words floating in our heads, they wouldn't matter much. But here's the truth. Negative thinking doesn't just stay in your mind, it shapes your entire reality. The way you think changes how you feel, how you behave, and even how others respond to you. In other words, your thoughts are not just private, they're powerful forces that mold your life. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're walking into a job interview. If your mind is filled with negative thoughts like, I'm not qualified, or I'm going to mess this up, your body immediately reacts. Your shoulders slump, your tone of voice becomes weaker, and your confidence disappears. The interviewer can sense that energy, and they might unconsciously agree with the story you're telling yourself. But imagine the same situation with a different thought. I may not be perfect, but I bring value. Suddenly, your posture shifts, your tone is stronger, and the interviewer perceives you as capable. Nothing about your skills changed, only your thoughts. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect failure, you unconsciously behave in ways that create failure. When you expect success, you start acting in ways that open the door to success. Thoughts may be invisible, but they have a visible impact on the results you get, and it doesn't stop at behavior. Negative thinking shapes your emotions too. Think about the last time you obsessed over a worst-case scenario. Your chest tightened, your stomach turned, your energy drained. Even if nothing bad had actually happened, your body responded as if it had. This is because your brain doesn't always distinguish between imagination and reality. If you repeatedly imagine failure, your body experiences the same stress as if you had already failed. Over time, this stress weakens your immune system, increases anxiety, and keeps you locked in a cycle of tension. But here's something even deeper. Negative thoughts shape your identity. Every time you think, I'm not good enough, you reinforce a belief about who you are. Your identity is like the software of your mind. It controls what you think is possible. If your identity is programmed by negative thoughts, you'll constantly self-sabotage, even when opportunities are in front of you. For example, someone who thinks, I'll never be financially stable, might ignore job opportunities, avoid asking for raises, or overspend as a way of proving their own belief. They're not cursed, they're programmed. Now let's look at how negative thoughts affect relationships. If you carry the belief, people don't like me, you'll behave in a way that pushes people away. You might avoid eye contact, keep conversations short, or appear closed off. The irony is that people may actually start treating you as distant, confirming your belief. This cycle is dangerous because it convinces you the negative thought was true all along, when in fact, your behavior helped create the outcome. On a larger scale, your thoughts shape your habits, and your habits shape your life. If your mind constantly tells you, there's no point in trying, you won't put in the effort to grow, which keeps you stuck exactly where you are. Your thoughts decide the actions you take, or don't take, and those actions decide your future. So when people say, change your thoughts, change your life, it's not just a motivational quote. It's neuroscience. Studies back this up. Researchers have found that people who focus on negative thoughts for long periods experience changes in brain structure. The amygdala, the part of the brain that detects threats, becomes overactive. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and rational thinking, weakens. In simple terms, the more you allow negative thoughts to dominate, the more your brain becomes wired for fear instead of logic. This is why breaking free from negativity feels so hard. It's not just mindset, it's biology. But here's the good news. The reverse is also true. Positive, empowering thoughts can strengthen the brain regions responsible for focus, confidence, and creativity. Just as negative thinking wires your brain for fear, positive thinking wires your brain for growth. You literally have the ability to re-sculpt your brain with the thoughts you practice the most. To make this even clearer, let's use a real-world story. Think of a student who constantly tells themselves, "I'm terrible at math." Every time they sit down to study, that belief creates anxiety. Their brain associates math with failure, so they avoid practicing. The less they practice, the worse they perform, and the worse they perform, the more convinced they become that they're bad at math. It becomes a closed loop. Now, imagine the same student shifting their thought to, "I can improve my math skills if I practice differently." That one shift opens the door to new strategies, new effort, and eventually, new results. The subject didn't change, only the thought did. Here's another example. Imagine a person in social situations who constantly thinks, "Nobody wants to talk to me." Because of this thought, they stand quietly in the corner, avoid smiling, and don't approach anyone. Guess what happens? Nobody approaches them. Not because people dislike them, but because their body language signals disinterest. The thought shaped their behavior, and the behavior shaped the outcome. That's how thoughts sculpt reality in real time. Let's pause for a moment and do a quick exercise. Think of a negative thought you often have about yourself. Maybe it's, "I'm always behind," or "I'll never succeed." Now, notice how your body feels when you think it. Do you feel smaller, heavier, less motivated? Now, flip it. Imagine replacing that thought with, "I'm exactly where I need to be," or "I am capable of finding a way forward." Feel the difference? Your body instantly shifts. This simple exercise shows how quickly thoughts change your inner reality. And, over time, your outer reality too. To summarize, negative thoughts are not harmless background noise. They create emotions, shape behavior, build habits, and solidify identity. They can sabotage relationships, limit opportunities, and physically rewire your brain for stress. But, and this is the most important part, if negative thoughts can shape your reality, then positive ones can reshape it. And that means you hold the power to redesign the story of your life. When most people think of the mind, they imagine the thoughts they're aware of, the inner voice that comments on everything, the ideas they can control. But here's the truth. That conscious mind you're aware of is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies the subconscious mind, and it's far more powerful than most people realize. In fact, studies suggest that up to 95% of your daily thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by your subconscious programming. Think of your subconscious like the operating system on a computer. You don't see it working, but it runs. Everything in the background. Your breathing, your heartbeat, your habits, your automatic reactions, all of these are controlled by your subconscious. And just like a computer, your subconscious mind doesn't judge or question the programs it runs. It simply repeats whatever was installed. If the program is helpful, like, I can learn new skills, then you thrive. But if the program is harmful, like, I'll never succeed, then that belief runs quietly in the background, influencing everything you do. Where do these programs come from? Mostly from childhood. Between birth and about age 7, your brain is in what scientists call a theta state, which is like a deep state of hypnosis. During this stage, you absorb everything around you without filters. If your parents, teachers, or environment send you messages, whether positive or negative, those messages often sink straight into your subconscious. For example, if a child hears, "You're so smart," repeatedly, they grow up with confidence in their abilities. But if they hear, "You'll never amount to anything," that belief gets stored, and decades later, they may still feel unworthy, even if their logical mind knows better. Here's the tricky part. Once a program is installed in the subconscious, it becomes automatic. You might consciously want success, love, or health, but if your subconscious is running a program that says, "I don't deserve it," you'll sabotage yourself without even realizing it. That's why willpower alone often fails. Your conscious mind is like the captain giving orders, but your subconscious is the entire crew running the ship. If the crew believes the ship can't sail, the captain's commands won't matter. To make this more relatable, let's look at an example. Imagine you're trying to build wealth. Consciously, you want financial freedom. You read books, you make plans, you set goals. But deep down, your subconscious has a program from childhood. Money is the root of all problems. That belief silently influences your choices. You might procrastinate on investments, overspend, or even turn down opportunities. And when things don't work out, you say, "See, I knew I wasn't good with money." In reality, it wasn't your skills that failed. It was your subconscious program steering you off course. Another example, think about relationships. Someone might consciously want a loving partnership, but if their subconscious carries the program, "I'm not lovable," they'll unconsciously push people away, settle for less than they deserve, or sabotage healthy connections. Until that subconscious program is updated, no amount of surface-level effort will fix the pattern. The subconscious also explains why affirmations sometimes don't work for people. If you stand in the mirror and say, "I am successful," while your subconscious is running the opposite program, you'll feel resistance. Your mind argues back, saying, "That's not true." This is why reprogramming the subconscious requires more than words. It requires consistency, emotion, and repetition, powerful enough to overwrite the old code. Science has shown us some fascinating things about how the subconscious works. For instance, neuroscientists have discovered that the subconscious processes information millions of times faster than the conscious mind. It runs on autopilot, scanning the environment, creating shortcuts, and storing patterns. This is why habits feel so automatic. You don't need to think about brushing your teeth, driving your usual route, or typing on a keyboard. Your subconscious takes over. Now, here's the big takeaway. Your subconscious doesn't care if a program is positive or negative. It doesn't judge. It only obeys repetition and emotion. The more often you think something, And the more emotion you attach to it, the deeper it gets wired. That's why one hurtful comment can stay with you for years. Because the emotional charge behind it made it sink straight into your subconscious. So how do we change it? The first step is awareness, realizing that most of your struggles aren't because you're lazy, broken, or unlucky. They're because of outdated subconscious programming. The second step is repetition with intention, just like you learned. Negative beliefs through repeated exposure. You can install positive ones the same way, through visualization, affirmations backed by emotion, journaling, and consistent action. The third step is environment. If you surround yourself with negativity, your subconscious absorbs it. But if you surround yourself with growth-minded people, empowering content, and uplifting messages, your subconscious begins to shift automatically. Here's a quick way to understand it. Your conscious mind is like planting a seed, but your subconscious is the soil. If the soil is toxic, the seed won't grow no matter how often you water it. If the soil is fertile, the seed will thrive almost effortlessly. Your subconscious is that soil. It determines whether your conscious goals have a chance to succeed. And the most empowering truth of all is this: your subconscious can be reprogrammed at any age. You are not stuck with the beliefs you picked up as a child. Just like a computer can install a new operating system, your mind can install new programming. It requires consistency and patience, but it's absolutely possible. People all over the world have rewritten subconscious beliefs and transformed their lives, and so can you. The moment you decide to take ownership of your subconscious, you begin reshaping not just your thoughts, but your destiny. If you want to change your mind, the very first step is awareness. Why? Because you cannot change what you're not aware of. Most negative thoughts are so automatic that they slip into your mind without you noticing. You don't choose them, they just appear. And the danger is, if you don't recognize them, they start running the show in the background, shaping your mood, your decisions, and your future. Think about it like this. Imagine you're wearing a pair of tinted glasses without realizing it. Everything you see is colored by the lens, but you think that's just how the world looks. That's what happens with negative thoughts. They filter your reality. If your subconscious is running the program, "I'm not good enough," then every situation you face, whether it's a job interview, a date, or even a casual conversation, gets colored by that belief. You don't see things as they are. You see them through the filter of your subconscious. So the first step is to catch the thought in real time. That means pausing long enough to say, "Wait, what did I just tell myself?" At first, this might feel impossible because the thoughts are so quick and automatic. But with practice, it becomes easier. One simple method is the observer technique. Imagine you're not your thoughts, but the person watching your thoughts. You're like a scientist studying patterns. For example, let's say you're about to give a presentation and a voice in your head says, "You're going to mess this up." Instead of immediately believing it, you pause and think, "Interesting. That's just a thought. It's not the truth. Where did that come from?" When you separate yourself from your thoughts, you break the loop. You realize that thoughts are not facts. They're just mental events passing through your mind. Another tool is journaling. At the end of the day, write down moments when you felt doubt, fear, or negativity. Then ask yourself, what thought triggered this feeling? You'll start to notice patterns. Maybe every time you face something new, the thought, "I'm not capable," pops up. Or maybe every time you think about money, the thought, "I'll never have enough," sneaks in. Writing them down exposes the programs running in the background, and once you see them clearly, you can start rewriting them. Here's another exercise you can try. Set a timer on your phone for random times during the day. When it goes off, pause and check in with yourself. What were you just thinking? Was it positive, neutral, or negative? This little habit can surprise you because you'll often catch your mind wandering to worry, doubt, or criticism without you even realizing it. Each time you catch it, you're building awareness. Another powerful method is called the thought labeling technique. Instead of letting thoughts swirl around chaotically, you give them simple labels. For example, if you notice your mind saying, "I'll never get this right," you mentally tag it. That's self-doubt. If you think, "People don't like me," you label it, "That's insecurity." By naming the thought, you create space between you and the emotion attached to it. You stop drowning in it and start observing it from the outside. Let's be real. This step can be uncomfortable. Becoming aware of your negative thoughts might feel like shining a flashlight into a messy closet. Suddenly, you see beliefs that you've been carrying for years. But here's the empowering part. Once you see them, they lose their power over you. Awareness creates distance. Instead of being controlled by the thought, you become the one observing it. Here's a story. A woman named Sarah always felt anxious at work. She thought she was just a nervous person. But when she started journaling her thoughts, she realized she had a recurring belief. "I'm not smart enough." This belief came from years of being compared to her siblings as a child. Once she noticed it, she could challenge it. Instead of automatically accepting the thought, she paused and said, "Wait, is this really true?" That simple act of awareness began to break the loop. Another example. A man named James would always procrastinate when opportunities came his way. At first, he thought he was just lazy, but through self-observation, he discovered a hidden program. "If I try and fail, people will laugh at me." That fear had been planted in him since school. Once he saw the pattern, he realized procrastination wasn't laziness, it was protection. And the moment he understood it, he could begin to make new choices. Here's the key takeaway. You can't reprogram what you can't see. Awareness is like turning on the lights in a dark room. The moment you see the furniture, you stop tripping over it. The negative thoughts may still come, but now you recognize them for what they are. Old programs, not reality. So from today, your first mission is simple. Start noticing. Notice the thoughts that run through your mind. Notice the beliefs that surface in challenging moments. Notice the stories you repeat to yourself. Awareness is the first and most powerful step to breaking the cycle of negativity. And here's the good news. Awareness grows quickly. The more you practice, the faster you'll catch yourself. What once slipped by unnoticed will suddenly become obvious. And that awareness alone starts weakening the negative loop, because now, instead of being an unconscious victim of your programming, you're stepping into the role of conscious creator. Now that you've learned to notice your negative thoughts, the next step is to challenge and reframe them. Awareness alone is powerful, but if you stop there, you'll just end up watching the same old mental movie again and again. The real transformation happens when you interrupt the script and rewrite it. Let's start with this. Just because you think something doesn't make it true, the mind has a way of convincing us that every thought is a fact, but thoughts are often distorted by fear, past experiences, or false beliefs. So when a negative thought shows up, your job is to question it. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Or is it just a story my mind is telling me? What evidence do I actually have for this thought? Would I say this to a close friend I care about? Take the classic thought, I'm not good enough. If you look at it without questioning, it feels like truth. But if you pause and ask, what evidence do I have for this? Can I think of times where I succeeded, helped someone, or learned something new? Suddenly you realize the thought isn't reality. It's a habit of the mind. This is where reframing comes in. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring negative thoughts or replacing them with fake positivity. It means looking at the same situation through a different lens. For example, instead of, I failed, so I'm a failure, reframe it as, I failed this time, which means I learned something for next time. Instead of nobody likes me, reframe it as, I haven't met the right people yet who value me. Instead of, I'm terrible at this, reframe it as, I'm still learning, and that's part of the process. See the difference? The situation doesn't change, but the meaning does. And when the meaning changes, your emotions and actions change too. Here's a powerful metaphor. Imagine your mind is a courtroom. Every negative thought is like a lawyer presenting a case against you. You're not capable. You'll never succeed. People will reject you. But here's the catch. Most people never bring in the defense attorney. They just let the prosecutor win. Reframing is about bringing in the defense attorney. It's about saying, hold on, let me present the other side of the story. Let's make this practical. One technique you can use is called the thought ladder. When a negative thought shows up, instead of jumping to an unrealistic positive affirmation, you climb one step at a time. For example, negative thought. I'm horrible at public speaking. Unrealistic leap? I'm the best speaker in the world. Your brain won't believe it. Thought ladder approach. I'm nervous about public speaking, but I've gotten through presentations before. Then, I'm learning skills to get better. Then, I'm becoming more confident each time I try. Each step is believable, and slowly, you move from disempowering beliefs to empowering ones. Another simple exercise is to ask, what else could this mean? Suppose someone doesn't text you back. Your mind may jump to, they don't like me. But if you challenge it, you might realize, maybe they're busy, maybe their phone died, maybe it has nothing to do with me. That shift saves you from spiraling into unnecessary pain. Here's a story. A man named Alex used to constantly think, I'm a failure because I didn't finish college. That belief haunted him. But one day, he questioned it. He asked, does not finishing college automatically mean I'm a failure? What about the successful entrepreneurs who never graduated? What about the skills I've gained through experience? Slowly, he reframed it. I may not have a degree, but I have resourcefulness and determination. That new frame allowed him to start a business and thrive. The truth is, reframing is a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. At first, you may have to remind yourself, wait, let me reframe this thought. But eventually, it becomes automatic. Your brain starts looking for empowering meanings instead of destructive ones. And here's something crucial. Reframing isn't about denying challenges. It's about owning your power in the face of challenges. You may still face rejection, failure, or setbacks, but instead of saying, this proves I'm worthless, you say, this is part of growth. That one shift can completely change your resilience and confidence. So here's your assignment. The next time a negative thought enters your mind, pause and challenge it. Ask the hard questions. Then, reframe it into something that empowers you. Write down 3 reframes for every limiting belief you catch this week. By the end of the week, you'll start to see how much lighter, stronger, and freer you feel. Because here's the truth. You don't have to believe every thought your mind offers you. You have the power to argue back, to reinterpret, and to rewrite. And every time you do, you weaken the old negative programming and strengthen the new one. We've covered the steps: awareness, reframing, and replacing. But here's the truth. Reprogramming your mind isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Just like brushing your teeth keeps them clean, daily mental habits keep your mind sharp, positive, and free from negative buildup. The first daily habit is morning programming. The moment you wake up, your subconscious mind is the most open and suggestible. That's why reaching for your phone and scrolling through stressful news or social media is one of the worst ways to start the day. Instead, take those first 10 minutes to feed your mind with something empowering. You can repeat affirmations, visualize your goals, or read something inspirational. Even a few minutes of positive input can set the tone for the entire day. Another powerful habit is journaling. Every evening, write down 3 thoughts you noticed during the day that felt negative or limiting. Then reframe them on paper. For example, if you wrote, "I can't handle this workload," reframe it into, "I'm learning to manage challenges step by step." By doing this daily, you're not just catching negative thoughts. You're training your brain to rewrite them automatically. Third, practice mindfulness. This doesn't have to mean sitting cross-legged for an hour. It can be as simple as pausing for 60 seconds during the day, closing your eyes, and asking, "What am I thinking right now?" This small habit builds awareness. And remember, awareness is the foundation of all change. Another habit is controlling your environment. Your mind is shaped not just by your inner dialogue, but also by what you consume and who you surround yourself with. If you constantly watch negative news, hang around pessimistic people, and scroll through toxic social media accounts, your subconscious is being programmed with negativity. But if you feed it with books, podcasts, conversations, and people who uplift you, you naturally align with positivity. Here's a powerful exercise. Do a mental diet for 1 week. For 7 days, commit to eliminating unnecessary negative input. No gossip, no doom scrolling, no self-critical talk. Instead, replace it with empowering material, a motivational audiobook, a gratitude practice, or simply writing down 3 things you're proud of each day. This single week can reset your mental programming in a profound way. Consistency is the secret weapon here. Reprogramming isn't about doing one massive exercise and expecting your brain to change overnight. It's about small, repeated actions that compound over time. Think of it like drops of water filling a glass. One drop doesn't matter, but over time, the glass fills and eventually overflows. Your new beliefs are built the same way. Drop by drop, habit by habit. Let me give you a story. A man named Chris struggled with negative self-talk for years. He tried motivational events, but the effect faded within days. Then he created a simple daily ritual. Every morning he repeated 3 affirmations, and every evening he journaled 3 reframed thoughts. At first it felt pointless, but after 6 months he realized something amazing. His automatic thoughts had shifted. He didn't have to force positivity anymore. His mind had been reprogrammed by consistent daily action. Another example. A woman named Maya used to wake up anxious every morning, scrolling through emails and feeling overwhelmed. She switched her routine. Instead of picking up her phone, She spent 5 minutes in gratitude meditation, visualizing her ideal day. Within weeks, her mornings felt calmer, and that calm carried into her work. The habit didn't just change her mornings, it changed her entire mindset. Here's another small but powerful daily tool: verbal pattern interruption. When you catch yourself saying, "I can't," immediately add, "yet." So it becomes, "I can't do this, yet." That one word shifts the thought from a limitation to a possibility. Try this every day for a week and notice how your energy changes. One more habit worth mentioning is gratitude journaling. Before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for and why. Gratitude shifts your focus away from lack and toward abundance. And when practiced daily, it becomes a powerful lens that changes how you see the world. So here's your action plan. Choose just 2 daily habits to start with. Maybe it's morning affirmations and evening journaling. Or maybe it's a daily mindfulness pause and a gratitude practice. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do everything at once. Start small, stay consistent, and build momentum. Because here's the truth: the mind is like a muscle. The more you train it with positive habits, the stronger it gets. And over time, those daily practices become part of who you are. You won't just be someone who tries to think positively. You'll naturally live with a reprogrammed mind. Daily. Habits are where the real magic happens. They transform reprogramming from a concept into a lifestyle. And once your lifestyle supports your new beliefs, negative thoughts lose their power for good. Up until now, we've talked about practical steps to reprogram your mind. But let's take a moment to look at the science behind it. Because once you understand what's actually happening inside your brain, the whole process becomes even more powerful and a lot more believable. Let's start with this. Your brain is not fixed. For decades, scientists believed that once you reached adulthood, your brain wiring was permanent. But modern neuroscience has proven the opposite. Thanks to something called neuroplasticity, your brain is constantly changing, adapting, and forming new connections, right up until your last day on Earth. That means no matter how long you've been stuck in negative thinking, you have the ability to rewire your mind. Here's how it works. Every thought you think fires a network of neurons in your brain. If you think the same thought repeatedly, like, "I'm not good enough," those neurons fire together so often that they wire together. This creates a neural pathway, like a mental highway. And just like cars on a busy road, your brain naturally takes the pathway that's been used the most. That's why negative thoughts can feel automatic. They've been reinforced by years of repetition. But here's the exciting part. You can build new pathways. When you practice awareness, reframing, and replacing, you're literally carving new roads in your brain. At first, the new pathway feels weak, like a dirt trail. But with repetition, it gets stronger and stronger until eventually it becomes the main road your brain prefers to travel. That's the science of reprogramming in action. Now let's talk about why emotion matters so much. Neuroscience shows that when a thought is paired with strong emotion, whether positive or negative, it creates a much deeper imprint in the brain. Think about it. You probably don't remember what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago, but you remember the day you got heartbroken, or the day you achieved something huge. That's because emotion supercharges memory and learning. This is why repeating affirmations without emotion doesn't work. If you just say, "I am confident," in a flat voice, your brain doesn't register it as important. But if you say it while standing tall, breathing deeply, and feeling the energy of confidence, your brain locks it in. Emotion tells your subconscious, this matters. Remember it. Another key scientific principle is the reticular activating system, or RAS. This is a filter in your brain that decides what information to pay attention to. Right now, your RAS is filtering millions of stimuli. You're not noticing the hum of your refrigerator, the feeling of your socks, or the sound of traffic outside unless you focus on it. But here's the kicker. Your RAS is trained by your dominant thoughts. If you constantly think, I'm unlucky, your brain literally filters the world to find evidence that proves you right. But if you program your mind to think, opportunities are everywhere, your RAS starts showing you possibilities you never noticed before. Here's a simple example. Have you ever thought about buying a certain car and suddenly you see that car everywhere? That's your RAS in action. The car was always there, but now your brain is trained to notice it. The same happens with beliefs. If you program your brain with empowering beliefs, your RAS highlights opportunities that align with them. Let's also touch on habits and the subconscious. About 95% of your daily behavior comes from subconscious programming. That means you're running on autopilot most of the time, acting out whatever beliefs and patterns are stored inside you. The reason daily habits are so powerful is because they slowly replace old programs with new ones until your autopilot is working in your favor. To make this practical, think of your brain like a garden. Negative thoughts are weeds that grow automatically. If you do nothing, the weeds take over. But neuroplasticity gives you the power to pull out the weeds and plant new seeds. Each time you water those seeds with repetition and emotion, they grow stronger. And eventually, the weeds shrink and the garden flourishes. Here's a real-life story to illustrate. A woman named Julia had battled with the thought, I'll never lose weight. That belief had carved deep pathways in her brain. But she learned about neuroplasticity and started replacing it with, I'm learning to care for my body. Every day, she visualized herself making healthy choices, paired with the emotion of pride. At first, it felt forced. But over months, the old pathway weakened and the new one strengthened. She didn't just lose weight, she lost the belief that she was powerless. So the science is clear. Your brain is a dynamic system, constantly changing. Negative thoughts aren't permanent. They're just pathways you've practiced too often. And by using awareness, reframing, and replacement, with repetition and emotion, you can rewire your brain for confidence, peace, and resilience. The bottom line? You're not stuck with the mind you have. You can literally build a new one. And the science of neuroplasticity proves it. Have you ever wondered if these techniques really work in real life, beyond theory and motivation? The truth is, countless people have used these exact principles to rewrite their stories, break destructive cycles, and build lives they never thought possible. Let me share a few transformations that prove what's possible when you reprogram your mind. Take Sarah, for example. For years, she battled crippling self-doubt. Every time she had an opportunity to speak up at work, her mind instantly flooded with thoughts like, "You're not smart enough. You'll embarrass yourself." This inner voice didn't just stay at the office. It followed her home, leaving her feeling small in almost every area of life. But instead of staying trapped, she started applying the awareness technique we discussed earlier. She began journaling her negative thought loops, catching them in real time. Slowly, she shifted to reframing. Whenever that old thought appeared, she'd say to herself, "This is just fear talking, not truth." Within 6 months, Sarah landed a leadership role and, more importantly, felt free from the inner critic that once controlled her life. Then there's David. His life was defined by anger and frustration. Growing up, he had learned to meet challenges with defensiveness. So as an adult, even minor setbacks would spiral into explosive outbursts. His relationships suffered, and he often went to bed regretting things he had said. When he discovered the power of interrupting and replacing thought patterns, everything began to change. He started with something as simple as pausing for one deep breath whenever he felt anger rise. That pause gave him space to choose a different response. Over time, his family noticed the difference. He rebuilt trust, became more patient, and said something profound. For the first time, I'm not at war with my own mind. And consider Maya, a young entrepreneur who constantly felt like a fraud. The voice of imposter syndrome screamed at her daily, "You don't belong here. You're going to fail." But she committed to installing new programming. Every morning, she visualized herself confidently leading meetings, closing deals, and solving problems with ease. She even recorded affirmations in her own voice and played them back while driving. After months of practice, her confidence wasn't fake. It was real. Today, her business is thriving, and she credits the shift not to external success, but to the inner rewiring that allowed her to see herself differently. Now let's talk about Jason, a college athlete. Despite having the physical talent to excel, he was paralyzed by performance anxiety. Before every game, his thoughts would spiral. Don't mess up. Don't embarrass yourself. Everyone's watching. This fear sabotaged his performance. When Jason learned about the subconscious mind, he started visualizing himself executing plays with total confidence. He paired that with anchoring techniques, creating a small ritual before every match, clenching his fist while repeating, "I am ready. I am strong." Over time, that anchor became automatic. The anxiety didn't vanish overnight, but it stopped controlling him. Within a season, his coach noticed his transformation. Jason went from the bench to a starting position, not because his skills changed, but because his mindset did. Finally, let's meet Anna, a mother of two who carried years of inherited negativity. Raised in a household where criticism was constant, she found herself repeating the same patterns with her children, snapping at small mistakes, expecting the worst, and unintentionally passing down the same heavy mindset. One day she realized, if I don't change this, I'm giving my kids the same battles I've been fighting all my life. She committed to a daily routine of gratitude, journaling, and reframing. Instead of saying, "Why can't you get this right?" she began asking, "What can we learn from this?" That shift rippled through her family. Her children became more confident, more open, and more resilient. Anna describes it best. "Reprogramming my mind didn't just change me, it changed generations." These aren't isolated cases. From athletes overcoming performance anxiety, to students defeating procrastination, to parents breaking cycles of negativity for their kids, the pattern is clear. When you change the way you think, you change the way you live. The human brain is astonishingly adaptable. Science calls it neuroplasticity. I call it proof that you are not your past thoughts, and you're not stuck with the story your mind once told you. And here's the most important part. None of these people started perfectly. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They simply took the first small step, and then another, and another. Over time, those steps built momentum, and momentum created transformation. So the question is, what's your story going to be? If Sarah could silence her inner critic, if David could break free from anger, if Maya could overcome imposter syndrome, If Jason could conquer performance anxiety, and if Anna could break generational cycles, what might happen when you commit to reprogramming your mind? What if the biggest breakthrough of your life is just one thought away from beginning? If there's one truth you take away from this video, let it be this: your thoughts are not permanent, and they do not define you. The mind is not a prison, it's a tool. And when you learn to program it with awareness, intention, and practice, you unlock a freedom you may not have imagined possible. We began by understanding why negative thoughts feel so powerful and how they silently shape our reality. Then we explored the subconscious mind, the hidden driver of our beliefs. From there, we walked through 3 practical steps: awareness, interruption, and replacement, and finally, installing new programming. Along the way, you heard real stories, proof that this isn't just theory. Ordinary people just like you have broken free from destructive loops and created extraordinary lives. But here's the most important part: none of this happens through watching a single video. Transformation begins the moment you take action. One thought at a time, one habit at a time, one day at a time. That's how momentum is built. That's how you rewire your brain. That's how you create a new reality. So today, I challenge you. Pick one practice from this video and commit to it. Journal your thoughts, reframe a belief, visualize the version of yourself you want to become. Begin small, but begin today, because the moment you take control of your thoughts is the moment you take control of your future. If this video resonated with you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we're building a community of people who are breaking cycles, rewriting stories, and creating brighter futures. Your mind is powerful. Don't just let it run. Guide it, shape it, and use it to create the life you truly deserve.